Overeating carbohydrates, especially refined ones, doesn't just affect your waistline or blood sugar. It can significantly impair mental clarity, often in ways that go unnoticed until they become chronic. The idea that the brain runs on glucose has long been used to justify carb-heavy diets. But what's often ignored is the extreme volatility caused by consistently high carbohydrate intake, volatility that can wreak havoc on focus, mood, and memory. If you've ever felt foggy-headed, irritable, forgetful, or unfocused after a big pasta lunch or a sugary breakfast, there's a reason. Your brain is reacting to the rapid swings in blood sugar that follow excessive carbohydrate consumption. When you eat a meal rich in refined carbs, white bread, sweetened cereal, pancakes, rice, or pasta, your blood sugar spikes quickly. This is followed by a surge in insulin to bring glucose levels back down. But insulin often overcorrects, pushing blood sugar lower than ideal, sometimes to the point of reactive hypoglycemia. This roller coaster effect, sharp rise, rapid crash, leads to mental sluggishness, poor concentration, and even anxiety. The brain, which requires a steady supply of glucose, does not function well under these erratic conditions. Instead of sustained mental energy, you're left with brain fog, mood swings, and a desperate craving for more sugar or carbs just to feel normal again. These blood sugar crashes don't just make you feel tired, they impair the brain's ability to form and retrieve memories. Cognitive performance declines, especially in tasks that require attention to detail, multitasking, or decision-making. In fact, research shows that even a single high glycemic meal can cause measurable declines in memory and alertness for several hours afterward. For students, professionals, or anyone trying to remain mentally sharp throughout the day, this poses a serious disadvantage. The damage doesn't stop at temporary brain fog. Chronically elevated blood sugar, driven by frequent overeating of carbohydrates, leads to a condition known as insulin resistance in the brain. Just like muscles and fat cells, brain cells can become less responsive to insulin, which plays a role not only in glucose uptake, but also in neurotransmitter regulation. As insulin signaling in the brain deteriorates, it affects everything from emotional regulation to learning capacity. This connection has become so clear that some researchers now refer to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes, a form of cognitive decline linked directly to impaired insulin function in the brain. Mood is also deeply impacted by the effects of excessive carb consumption. After a high-carb meal, especially one rich in refined sugars, the resulting blood sugar spike can cause a temporary mood lift due to a surge in dopamine and serotonin. But this is quickly followed by a crash, which can trigger irritability, sadness, anxiety, or mental fatigue. People often find themselves caught in a cycle of emotional eating, not because they're hungry, but because their brains are desperate to escape the emotional lows caused by the previous crash. This pattern mimics the highs and lows of addiction, and in many ways, it is one. The brain begins to rely on constant sugar intake to maintain emotional stability, trapping individuals in a loop of dependency that steadily worsens cognitive function over time. Worse still, over time, this constant up-and-down cycle takes a toll on brain structure. Chronic inflammation, fueled by high sugar intake, can impair the blood-brain barrier, the protective shield that keeps harmful substances out of the brain. Once this barrier becomes leaky due to inflammation, toxins and immune signals can enter, contributing to neural damage, mood disorders, and degenerative diseases. Mental clarity doesn't just dip temporarily. It declines over months and years into more serious cognitive dysfunction. Another consequence of high-carb eating is poor sleep, which indirectly damages mental clarity as well. Blood sugar crashes during the night can cause nighttime awakenings or restless sleep, while elevated insulin and cortisol levels interfere with melatonin production. Sleep deprivation alone is enough to impair memory, decision-making, and emotional regulation the following day, magnifying the cognitive effects of high-carb eating into a perpetual spiral of brain fatigue and emotional instability. Despite these severe effects, many people don't associate their brain fog, irritability, or forgetfulness with their diet. Instead, they may reach for caffeine or energy drinks to fix the problem, unknowingly layering more stimulation on top of an unstable metabolic foundation. Or worse, they might misdiagnose themselves with ADHD, depression, or even early dementia, when the root of the problem may be much simpler. Too many refined carbohydrates, disrupting the delicate biochemical balance that the brain relies on to function properly. The modern diet, dominated by sugar and starch, is quietly eroding mental performance across all age groups. Children struggle to concentrate in school not because they lack intelligence, but because their breakfast was loaded with sugar. Adults lose productivity and creativity in the afternoon not due to burnout, but because their lunch sent them into a postprandial blood sugar dive. And the elderly face accelerated cognitive decline, not just from aging, but from decades of metabolic damage inflicted by a diet they were never warned could be so dangerous to the mind. The brain does not thrive on sugar highs. It demands consistency, nourishment, and stability. Overeating carbohydrates, especially refined, nutrient-poor ones, starves it of those very needs, replacing mental clarity with confusion, joy with irritability, and focus with fog. The price of ignoring this connection is steep, and increasingly, it's one that society as a whole is being forced to pay.